Okay, the video you're about to see, it's about 12.5 minutes long, but it explains some of the sovereign citizens, and then it explains the shooting that happened in West Memphis, Arkansas. To give you an idea of what you're going to see, you're actually going to hear 911 tapes. You're going to see video dash cam of the officer that actually makes the traffic stop. You're going to see the young man, 16-year-old, jump out of the passenger side and start shooting. And you won't see the actual bullets impact of the officers. They edited that part out. But you'll see just how fast, and I'll explain it to you as we go. But while the dad, and they practiced this over and over and over again, actually out on a range, the AK the 16-year-old uses had been disassembled. It was in pieces. It was stashed out throughout the car. And the plan was, and this is what they practiced, the dad, if they were initiated on a traffic stop, the dad would get out with all this sovereign paperwork and just, conversation, just, kind of argue with the officers and keep them away from the vehicle. And the 16-year-old would assemble this AK-47. And if you look at him instead of the officers, you can see him reaching into different parts of the car and assembling this assault rifle. And the father, when the son's ready, you can't hear it because the audio is off, the son will reach over and beat the horn one time. That's telling the dad, I'm ready to go. The dad will then slap the side of the van. He pushes the one officer into the ditch and then ducks and runs, and the son gets out, kills the officer in the ditch, and kills the other officer in less than 5 seconds with a rifle. And it's something they have practiced over and over and over again. The officers never had a chance. The one deputy, the second one that was killed, was actually trying to retreat back behind his car, never even got his gun out of the holster before he was killed. The son was just that quick. And then, of course, they go on a 90-minute, terror through the community. Officers are responding all over the place. There's a big manhunt going on, and the father and son take that little minivan into a Walmart parking lot at 2:30 in the afternoon, and they start shooting at officers. You see the windows of the cars where they're shooting through the windows of the officers, in front of them, and you'll see a TWRA truck. He'll ram it, trying to disorient the people that are shooting at the officers that are pinned down in front of him. He'll ram them in the rear, and then you'll see his window explode when they're starting to shoot at him through his windshield. He's actually wounded, and then he backs out, and then the gunfight starts. So that's what you're going to see in the video, and you'll see actually the interview with this Jerry Kane and his son, where he will tell you in the video 2 weeks before the shootout took place that if I have to kill one, I'm going to have to kill them all. And he's talking about police officers, because he's tired of being messed with as a sovereign and everything else. Okay?
Where did this take place?
West Memphis, Arkansas, just across the bridge from Memphis. It was actually in the state of Arkansas. This is the actual traffic cam. That's the vehicle they're going to stop.
May the 20th, 2010 started out like any other day. 2 veterans of our West Memphis, Arkansas Police Department, Bill Evans and Brandon Powdert, were patrolling the interstate as part of the department's drug interdiction team, something they love to do. They became involved in what seemed to be a routine traffic stop, though I've always warned my officers there is no such thing. But really, how much more routine can you get than pulling over a father and son in what looked like a church bus? My men didn't realize who or what they were dealing with. Neither officer made it home. And one of them was my son. I'm Bob Powdert, Chief of the West Memphis Police Department. My officers, Bill and my son Brandon, didn't realize that there are people at war with this country that are not international terrorists. They are seemingly ordinary people, just like you and me, but they don't recognize the federal government's authority to impose laws or taxes on them. They're known as sovereign citizens. Their beliefs may sound so out there that they appear comical or crazy, but don't discount or ignore these people, because they are willing to kill and be killed for these beliefs. We as law enforcement officers need to recognize this very real threat so we can protect ourselves. And maybe if Brandon and Bill had been able to recognize the warning signs of sovereign beliefs, they'd be alive today.
In 1995, 168 men, women, and children were killed in the worst domestic terrorist attack on American soil in our nation's history. Aimed at the federal government and law enforcement, the bombing in Oklahoma City was the horrific symbol of the wave of anti-government sentiment that swept across the country in the 1990s. I'm retired ATF Special Agent in Charge, James Cavanaugh. I spent more than 30 years with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and I was there at the beginning of the so-called Patriot movement. I watched in 1992 as the standoff between law enforcement and a white separatist, Randy Weaver, in Ruby Ridge, Idaho, ended with the deaths of a federal marshal and Weaver's wife and son. I was there in the shootout the next year when David Koresh and more than 70 of his followers, along with 4 ATF agents, died in a fiery siege near Waco, Texas. What we didn't understand at first was that these events were a catalyst for the growth of a radical anti-government movement, a catalyst for the birth of armed militias. At its height, there were more than 800 of these anti-government groups throughout the country. Some were part of what is called the sovereign citizen movement. They believe the government has no right to tax or impose laws on them. Following law enforcement crackdowns after Oklahoma City, many anti-government groups disappeared. But the threat from hardcore elements of the radical right continued to simmer. In fact, between the Oklahoma City bombing and the recent West Memphis shootings, approximately 30 law enforcement officers lost their lives to homegrown extremists. 2 officers were killed in Abbeville, South Carolina in 2003, for example, by extremists who did not believe the government had any right to use a tiny portion of their land to widen a public road. Today, the threat of radical right violence against police officers has escalated because the radical anti-government movement has swelled once again. Jerry and Joe Kane, the father and son who were involved in the murders of the 2 officers in West Memphis, traveled around the country giving seminars on how to supposedly circumvent the legal system.
So what we're after here is not fighting, it's conquering. Right. I don't want to have to kill anybody. But if they keep messing with me, that's what it's going to have to come out. That's what it's going to come down to, is I'm going to have to kill. And if I have to kill one, then I'm not going to be able to stop. I just know. I have to.
Along with physical confrontations, sovereigns also practice a form of harassment and intimidation, often referred to as paper terrorism. They file bogus claims or liens against officers, prosecutors, or judges that can be difficult to get removed from court records. In 2010 alone, sovereign citizens have filed liens, cease and desist orders, and documents called letters of marque, or truth affidavits, against officers and agencies across the country. The following are some indicators that you as an officer need to be aware of to protect yourself. They are signs that the person you've encountered considers himself to be a sovereign citizen who is immune from the law. The first thing that any officer notices at a traffic stop is the vehicle's license plate. If you try to call in many sovereign plates, you'll find no record of them, and for good reason. They're either homemade or professionally produced fakes. They may display the names of strange nations, embassies, or tribes. They may refer to the Uniform Commercial Code or the Constitution. Bumper stickers are another easily visible sign of sovereign beliefs. One that reads Posse Comitatus, which is Latin for power or force of the county, means the driver believes county officials, such as sheriffs, are the highest level of law enforcement, and that the federal government and its officers don't have any legal authority. Stickers such as I am an American national or not subject to corporate federal or corporate state jurisdiction are signs that the vehicle's occupants are part of the radical anti-government movement. When asked for their driver's license, vehicle registration, or other identification, sovereigns may show documents that at first might look legitimate, but after a closer inspection are obviously fake. The fake driver's license could have the words, without prejudice, UCC 1-207, a reference to the Uniform Commercial Code. What might look like a real Social Security card to you may actually read, Social Security, Socialism in America, still 100% voluntary, for global domination and slavery, not for identification. Sovereigns often will have unusual responses to routine questions about their identification or license plate. If the officer asks the person's name, a sovereign may respond, "I am a free man, traveling upon the land." Or, "What authority do you have to question the sovereign?" If asked for a driver's license, the person might say, "Is one required of a sovereign?" Or they might ask you for your delegation of authority. If you continue questioning them, they might say, "Officer, I do not believe I, nor this private vehicle, falls under your jurisdiction. And here is the proof." Then they might show you what appear to be legal documents. Jerry Kane handed West Memphis officers Brandon Powder and Bill Evans some odd-looking papers. Powder and Evans didn't recognize the documents or understand what they meant. Many sovereigns sign legal documents in red ink or with a thumbprint in red ink. The subject's name might be in all capital letters or have strange punctuation, such as the first name, then a hyphen, then the middle name, followed by a colon, and the last name. Sovereigns believe this type of capitalization and punctuation shows they are immune from government authority. Some sovereigns may record their encounters with police, possibly in an effort to intimidate the officers. They might warn the officer that they are recording the encounter and then say something like, "I am reserving all of my common law rights." Some of these recordings showing the officers are then posted on the sovereign's websites. Now you have some knowledge on how sovereigns operate. Form a strategy within your department with your training section and tactical section and your commanders, and be prepared to implement that strategy when you encounter sovereigns. Have a procedure where you, your dispatchers, and your colleagues all understand that you're dealing with a sovereign citizen, a person who doesn't believe that you have any authority over him. These tips are only a few of the signs of possible sovereign beliefs. Just recognize that one or two might mean that your workday will end like every other, and you'll get to go home to your family.
Okay, the rest is
Well, I
live
was
footage.
one way, exit 275 on 40. These guys just shot a police officer right on the exit. You said officer's been shot on 270 what? Exit 275 on 40. 275 on 40. Where are you right now? I'm at the exit. They're right in front of me, about 100 feet. Okay, it's a white what? It's a white caravan, a white guy. Please hurry. He went, "Oh my God! I was shot. Two cops are dead. I was in the ditch." They're both dead now. They killed both cops. They shot one, he fell in the ditch. The other one ran behind the car, and they shot him in the head. All right, where's the suspect now? They just left in a white caravan. They went right off the exit. That guy had an automatic weapon. They're all with automatic weapons. Where are you at now? I'm sitting right over the car. What timing are you in? Oh, I'm in the FedEx truck. You can't look there. It's here. Somebody got to come forward.
That's Officer Powder in the street and his partner's down there in the ditch on your right. This is the Walmart parking lot. Watch the windshield of the officer in front of him. You'll see the glass is powder. See how the bullet's hitting? There's the TWRA guy.
Jerry and Joe Kane were finally stopped for
Then
good
this window gets
after
blown
they
away.
killed my son in his apartment that day. The night before, two other courageous officers were injured. We, as law enforcement professionals, face danger every day. We know that's part of our job. Hopefully this video is giving you some new tools to keep yourself safe. No officer should have to die like Brandon and Bill.
That's an interesting stat. It's actually gone up by several. But that video was put out in 2010, and it was basically for our education as officers to let us know what is out there and what they're willing to do. Like I said, you never know how these people are going to react. Everything you're about to see now happened in Knox County. These are all Knox County cases. 2010, I was a part of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, and I was the lead officer doing a traffic stop on a sovereign citizen named Darren Huff. He was in a camouflage truck, and he was part of a group that had tried to arrest the Monroe County Sheriff, the Monroe County Mayor, and the Monroe County Grand Jury Foreman. And they were going to do it by force if necessary. and we had a federal indictment out for him at that point. He was a white supremacist, and he was also a second lieutenant in the Georgia militia. And he had a little compound down there in Georgia, we found out later. Mr. Huff and 25 others of his little group came up out of Georgia and went to Monroe County, and what they were trying to do is prove that Barack Obama was not a U.S. citizen and thus could not be the President of the United States. And the way they intended on doing that was they wanted to go to the Monroe County grand jury and bring charges of treason against Barack Obama and get a grand jury indictment in Monroe County, and then try and serve that on President Obama at the White House if they got the indictment. Well, Monroe County refused to hear the case because, you guys are nuts. And what they said was, okay, now you violated our civil rights, we're going to arrest you for not hearing our civil complaint. And so they came armed to the courthouse and attempted to arrest the sheriff and the county mayor. And what happened was we knew they were coming, and we took our SWAT team down there and we ended up arresting them. And we charged them, with all kinds of federal charges and state charges. And Darren Huff was the only one that decided he wanted to go to court. So we had an indictment out for him, and his is kind of an interesting case. We charged him with coming across state lines for the purpose of armed revolt. In other words, he came across the line from Georgia to Tennessee for the purpose of overthrowing the government of Monroe County. Now this charge, this federal charge, has only been used 3 times in the history of the United States. Twice was during the Civil War. The other one was in Monroe for this guy. So we had to dig deep to kind of find this one, but it's punishable by 10 years in federal prison. So we charged him with that, and he came through Knoxville, and we had 2 highway patrol guys following him. He went all over East Tennessee, and he was coming back through Knoxville, and we decided we were going to do a traffic stop on him because we had the federal indictment on him. He has a carry permit out of Georgia that was valid, and he had a government model 45 on his hip when we pulled him out of the car. He had a 45, AK-47. He was in a camouflage painted utility bed truck, and he had sovereign citizen stickers on it and all 9 yards when he was all decorated. This is at our impound yard, and when we seized his vehicle after we arrested him, we're going to do a search warrant on it because we wanted to get whatever he had in the truck as far as his court case goes. So first thing you got to do is you got to take pictures of all 4 sides, prove that you didn't damage it. And what do you notice on the back? What are your warnings on this?
Upside down flags.
Upside down flags and support your local militia, right? Those are what we call a clue with the FBI. And that was the gun he had on his hip. Now, federal standards is, I got to keep track. I'm going to be the officer testifying in federal court on this one. So he's got a 45 automatic, he's got a clip in it, he had a round in the chamber, and he has 7 rounds inside that magazine. I've got to keep track of every gun I find. Is there a round in the chamber? What caliber is it? And how many rounds are total in the magazine? And then how many rounds are total? Wow. All right. And when I get done with this, I'll tell you exactly how much we had. You got to look for other stuff in the truck that might help you prove sovereign citizenship. So we're looking for documentation, anything electronic. So he had a BlackBerry cell phone, a Garmin, a computer, and a video machine in it. And we had to get individual search warrants for each item to include the truck. So we had a total of 5 search warrants we were doing on this vehicle. So here's an overall shot of the truck. You see the BlackBerries in the console there. The little black thing down there in the floorboard on the passenger side, that's his computer. And his Garmin up there on the dash. Part of the thing we're trying to prove was he went across state lines for the purpose of armed revolt. And then he was going to all the other sheriff's departments around East Tennessee, trying to get them to help him serve the arrest warrants on Monroe County. So he's part of the conspiracy. So we did a search warrant on his Garmin, and he had plugged in all the sheriff's department's addresses in East Tennessee. And then the tracking mechanism then showed where he went to every one of them. So that was a big help for us in federal court, showing that he actually did all that. That laptop, and you can look this up, there was an incident in 2013 down in Georgia where a Georgia militia tried to construct 13 vehicle models and then park them in front of police stations, and they're going to command detonate. They're going to destroy all the police departments around their jurisdiction. All that information that led to that case came out of that laptop right there we seized out of this traffic stop. He had all of his Georgia militia members' names in it, addresses, phone numbers, videos of them training, video of them out there in the woods blowing stuff up, mixing chemicals, for poison gas and everything else, to include this plan on what they did. The FBI and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation got somebody on the inside after they learned all the stuff that we got on this traffic stop, got somebody infiltrated in there as an explosive expert, came out of the military and he's disgruntled, but he's really an FBI agent. And he constructed, I think it was 9, they ended up doing 9 vehicles with fake explosives and made them all look legitimate. And when they took them down they were dialing the numbers to set off the devices, that all the cars had been parked, and they were just fake explosives. And ended up taking down this whole group. But all that came out of this traffic stop we did here in Knoxville. That was a little flip book he had, and he's got highlighted all the routes he took all the way through East Tennessee to all the sheriff's departments, so that went a long way. We had to prove that he's actually a member of the Georgia militia. Well, he has his uniform in the truck. He's a second lieutenant in the Georgia militia. He has a little bar on there with his hat. And then he had an ID card that says, hey, I'm a chaplain and a second lieutenant in the Georgia militia. And he had all the numbers and websites and everything else. Videotape, he would actually walk in with the videotape into the sheriff's office and record them refusing to help him to arrest the Monroe County Sheriff, and he was going to sue everybody else based on the tapes. All right, we had to look for paperwork, anything we could use that he was trying to defraud the government. And they pass these books out all the time, that County Sheriff's America's Last Hope, because they want all the sheriffs in the country to revolt and assist them in kicking out the federal government. This was a citizen's arrest warrant that he had. And it mentions everybody, to include that at the bottom, Barack Hussein Obama, also known as Barry Centro, or whatever he called himself. And any illegal aliens, infiltrators, or imposters of the United States president. So that was what they were trying to get the Monroe County Grand Jury to hear. And it goes all the way from the president all the way back to the Tennessee Judicial District Judge who wouldn't hear it. And they named everybody in there that they wanted to arrest. And the problem was that the court clerk stamped this thing. So she didn't know what it was, but when she stamps it, it becomes an official document. So it kind of caused a little problem there. Walter Francis Fitzpatrick, you can look him up on the internet. He was arrested in Monroe County. He actually stole the grand jury list. He went up to the court clerk's office, went behind the desk, and took the list of everybody who was sitting on the grand jury. They had their names and phone numbers on it and addresses. And he stole that for the purpose of trying to intimidate the grand jury. So they ended up charging him with that, and he's currently sitting in prison right now. They carry these pocket constitutions around because they're claiming they're violating the Constitution all the time. Explosives, you got to look for that. This guy had some stuff in there with that. This is his vehicle. This is the part right behind the driver's side door, that first little cabinet. And as you can see, starting at the top shelf, he's got all kinds of survival stuff. He's got combat boots. He's got food tins, water, power bars, canteens. Second shelf down, the camouflage bag on your left, that's a ghillie suit, a sniper's ghillie suit that the military uses. Of course, he's got blankets. He's got extra clothes he's got in Ziploc bags. The bottom one, the green roll thing, that's a ground mat, and right underneath it you'll see a rifle. It's a survivalist rifle. And it's called a Kel-Tec, and it uses Glock 40 caliber magazines. So you had to pull that out, take a picture of it, and then unfold it. And it's very accurate. It's accurate to 150 yards. I mean, it's a good little survival rifle, but it actually folds in half. And then you can buy these extended magazines for it. The next container right behind the one we just saw, starting at the left, that green can's got a bunch of ammunition in it. He's got a gas mask and a bunch of military filters in it, AK-47 magazines. He's got sleep apnea, so he's got his PAP machine, CPAP machine, and then a bunch of extra clothes in the bag. But these magazines, I had to take a picture, prove they were loaded, and then I had to take every round and count every round that was in the magazine. Because they're 30 round magazines, but one had like 25 rounds, one had 30 rounds, one had 26 rounds. So you got to keep track of which magazine had how many rounds and then keep a total count. And then the box, when we opened it, each bag had to be counted, each box had to be counted, and then keep track of how many total rounds. I found some more 45 magazines. The ghillie suit, I just pulled out the mask, that's what it looks like over on the right there. He had his Bible. I thought that was pretty neat. He had a Ziploc bag for that.
What kind of job or businesses are these people in, and where do they get their money?
He actually worked at a chemical factory down in Georgia.
Sorry?
He worked at a chemical factory down in Georgia. So he had a legitimate job. This was a little concerning to us. He works at a chemical factory. This is a military M17 gas mask with military cartridges that are used for chemical warfare. You cannot buy these off the internet. You cannot get them at military stores. He got these off a military base. So that really concerned us. Why does he need this grade of protection? Most of them just want tear gas because that's what they're afraid the cops are going to use. Why would you want military grade filters and have 3 of them? They're a very controlled item. On the other side of the vehicle, you had a sleeping bag rolled up into one compartment. Just a bunch of electronics in this bigger cabinet. He had the pipe bombs over on the far left, those black things. Those are actually pipe bombs that he had put electrical tape on to try and make them, disguise them a little bit. But he had about 6 pipe bombs in the back. Now, federal government says they are not a pipe bomb unless they are fully assembled. He had the gunpowder in the box. The pipe bombs were fully all ready to go to include fuses. He just had to put the gunpowder into the pipe. So according to the federal government, those are bomb components. It's not an explosive device, so we couldn't charge him for that. Wow. Then you guys start looking for strange items. This is the next compartment over, that cardboard box. It had applications for the sovereign movement, stickers. Those DVDs were actually movies of them out in the woods training, blowing stuff up, shooting, running obstacle courses, stuff like that. And then we have the Makita box with the upside down sticker on it. The Makita box, it was different. The Makita box, and I'm not going to show you all the pictures because I understand it's going to be shown to a church group and that just wouldn't be good. He claims to be the chaplain for the sovereign citizens. Well, when we opened it up, what do you usually find in the Makita box? Some kind of electric drill, right? Well, this we found condoms and KY jelly, and then when we flipped up the little mat underneath it, that's when we found the drill with the sex toy attached. And he was kind of into transvestite hookers. So when we took the box and everything we found in it to the interview room, he panicked and said, if we will not show that in court, this box and its contents, that he would admit to everything. And he gave us a 6-hour tape interview admitting to everything. And so they said, okay, we won't show it in court. Well, then the idiot, 6 months later, decides, I want my day in court. So it avoided the deal. So we ended up going to court. And everything you saw in that truck got wheeled in on a big dolly to include the Makita box and all the toys on the inside. And he just about had a spasm right there when he found out we were going to show this in court. I spent 3 days on the stand testifying to everything that was found in that truck. There was a total of over 8,000 rounds of ammunition in that truck, of assorted ammunition and weapons. So, understand, I'm not going to show you the other stuff. We got him to go to court, and the jury came back in a couple hours and found him guilty, and he's currently in federal prison. Mr. Terry Lee Davidson, the guy on Racker Street, these are pictures from his evacuation. He claimed that he paid off his house loan by using a straw man account, and he paid 120 ounces of Troy silver to the bank through his straw man account. And the bank said, no, we never received any silver, and yeah, I'm sorry, but you're out. Again, that's his house. That was one of the guns we found, and remember, he's a 2-time convicted felon. So he had the gun and ammunition. Anybody know why they put black electrician's tape on the outside of the handle? Because of the rough pistol grip, that's where we get DNA, because it rubs off. And they'll put that electrician's tape on, which doesn't hold fingerprints and it doesn't hold DNA. So what they'll do is they'll shoot somebody and they'll take that tape off. And there's no fingerprints and no DNA on it.
Wow.
That was another gun. It does look rough, but it was functional. That was it also in his house. And then he had to break down shotgun. And that's his house right there. And everything you see here, from the fence all the way up to the street, is 10 feet. And it was 5 feet tall. And it went down the street for 2 blocks, all the way to the stop sign. All was in that little bitty house. He was a hoarder. And there was so much junk in there. We brought 20 inmate workers out to help us, move him out of this house. It took 20 inmate workers and a bobcat 8 hours to move all this garbage off his property. And this is just what was inside the house. That pink boat was in his house. He didn't even know he had it in there. It was actually what we think was the dining room. Yeah, we brought that out of his house. He goes, "Where'd you find that?" Because he's sitting in the back of my car. And so I go, "Well, it's in one of the rooms in there. I couldn't tell you." But, I didn't even know it was in there.
Now, what eventually happened to all this?
Oh, it gets better. Let me explain that to you. That was just the junk out of his house. Now, all this stuff you see, this is going down the alley. Again, this is about 8 feet wide and 6 feet tall. This is all garbage we took out of his yard. So it goes all the way down the alley for 2 blocks. Makes the corner and goes up the block. The guy in the yellow shirt, that's where the corner of the alley is. So it's coming all the way up the block now. Into an empty lot where we use the backhoe to pick up the heavier items to get it all stacked out off the property. Now, when we evict somebody and we stack all the stuff out there, then we have what's called vulture row. Because everybody lives in that area, and it doesn't matter where, they all do it. When we got all the stuff out on the property, we leave. So everybody comes in and starts picking through it. And what they did was they took it all off the curb and threw it into the street as they were looking through it. So when we left, about 2 hours later, the city of Knoxville gets a call and goes, "Hey, Rector Street is totally blocked by a pile of 4-foot tall garbage that's in the middle of the street, blocking the street for 2 blocks. And they had to bring in 20 dump trucks and a front end loader to clear the street and get all that garbage out of the street. I already explained about Mr. James McBride. This is a little closer look at some of the stuff he had. Those punch marks were just to put embossing stuff on his documents. Talked about that. That's his flag. Talked about the post stamp there. He claimed to have had an embassy in Washington, D.C. It was actually a post office box. His plates, that was his license making machine he bought from the state of Tennessee in surplus. That's how he's producing his fake IDs. He was in contact with Cherokee Nation, that guy I was telling you about that was a claim if you're a member of my tribe, I'll get you out of it. And it was just a scam between them all. They were just shuttling people back and forth to each other. This young lady, we do a security checkpoint at the Greyhound bus station there at Magnolia and Central. And what we do is we set up a TSA checkpoint, which means it's just like an airport. So all you got to do to make it an airport is we put up little signs saying, if you enter this property, you are no subject to seizure under TSA authority, because Greyhound is a national transportation hub. And because we made the airport so hard to fly in, we're finding terrorist suspects and felons and drug dealers and everything else are using the buses. So every now and then we'll set up these security checkpoints at a bus stop, and then we treat it just like an airport. So when they come off the bus, if they go inside this building, it's just like an airport. They got to go through all the security to get back on the bus. And you would be surprised what we find. We take EOD dogs, drug dogs, a lot of police officers, and TSA personnel, because they're the ones that officially have to do the TSA checkpoint. But this is the way we set it up. The blue guys, those are TSA employees on the airport, and they're part of this task force that we set up. And they search every bag, 100%. Every person that comes off the bus gets searched. Every bag that comes off the bus gets searched. There is no random anything. We do everybody, just so they can't gripe about, profiling or whatever.
Is this ongoing or just?
It's I do it like once a month. Yeah. The lady to your left with the black ponytail, she is a profiler, and she is better than any canine dog I've ever seen. She can literally look at people coming off the bus and go, no, no, oh, you better check that one before you get to the bathroom. And, you know, because they go to the bathroom and dump their drugs, and she can just pick them out. I mean, she is just good. All right, but again, we check everybody. This guy was really hard to profile. I could have told you he was a bad guy, but he ended up having warrants out of Texas for murder, riding the bus.
Oh my goodness. Gosh.
We did 300 people in 16 hours, and we found all kinds of drugs and guns, and you name it, we found it. People with warrants. That was just a fashion violation. The gentleman right there with the white pants and the blue shirt,
Right here.
looks clean cut, normal, right? Well, what about the Republic of Texas shirt he's got on?
Oh.
Does that backpack he's carrying, does that look like he's carrying 5 kilos of cocaine? We didn't think so until we got up to the front and the canine dog hit all over it and then found 5 kilos in his backpack.
Wow.
This guy was just an idiot. He comes up and goes, hey, what are you looking for? We said, we're looking for drugs and guns and terrorists and you got warrants on file or whatever. And he goes, oh, okay. And he empties out his pocket and he's got a little bit of marijuana on it. And he's throwing it up on our table because you got me. And then we ran him through Arizona and found out, yeah, he's got drug dealing warrants out of Arizona. He was fleeing from them. So yeah, he was just a genius all the way around. Oh, this young lady, they still call her my girlfriend. She came up to our checkpoint and she screamed, I am a sovereign citizen, you can't search me. And then she tried to run through the emergency exit that I just happened to be standing in front of. Now I'm 6'1", about 245 pounds, and she's 5 foot nothing, 100 nothing, and she's going to try and run me over. Well, in this little exchange, she runs into me and falls backwards. I haven't even touched her. She ran into me and falls backwards and lays on the floor and screams at the top of her lungs that I raped her in that split second. And I go, okay, well, so we hook her up and she's still yelling, I'm sovereign, and you just name it. Well, we're trying to take her picture. We got the camera on a tripod, and she keeps kicking the camera. Because she says if we take her picture, it's a violation of copyright laws.
Oh my gosh.
So we tried backing it up a little bit, and then she wouldn't look at the camera, and then she got, you know, a little verbal. And so I started searching her bag, and I found this jar of peanut butter. And it felt funny. It just felt kind of oblong.
Yeah.
So I took it off, and the top looked like a brand new jar of peanut butter. You know, nice and smooth, got the little curly cue on it. Well, I rolled it across the desk, and it would roll funny. It would roll like it's heavy on one side. So I whacked it on the table and pulled out the first 3 inches of peanut butter, and then I found this great big bag of marijuana on the inside. She had it hermetically sealed in a Ziploc bag. And that's what it looked like when it came out. And it was really good. It was hydroponic stuff. I mean, it was really good, pure stuff. I mean, the dog was in the other room and sat. I mean, it alerted from the other room. I mean, it was really cool. Wow. And then I found a pill bottle. She had one of those big aspirin bottles. And again, it had a bunch of aspirin on the top, but you know, what we found in the peanut butter jar, I said, yeah, what the heck? So I pour all the aspirin out, and then I find baggies on the inside with a bunch of different drugs. I wound up having 280 different pills of opiate drugs inside there, inside the aspirin bottle. And then she had her own personal use marijuana in her purse. And she was the one I got the sovereign citizen flag and the sticker that's on the table there. I got that off of her. Let's see, oh yeah, then she went to our jail. Of course, she's screaming at the top of her lungs. She refuses to be booked, refuses to be fingerprinted, and then she gets put in the Be Sweet chair, which is, you know, the restraint chair, because she keeps trying to kick everybody. And she's sitting in the chair for 2 days, screaming at the top of her lungs. And we finally figure out she has drugs up inside her vagina. She's encased them. And now we got to try and get a body cavity search warrant, which is unbelievably hard. It took us 2 days to convince a judge that we needed to do this. And of course, then you got to bring in a doctor and a nurse, and a doctor literally has to do the search inside the body cavity. And we ended up having to take an x-ray to prove that she actually had something up inside her. So when we finally brought it out, this is a glass jar. It's about 2.5 inches tall and about 1.5 inches wide, and it had hashish oil, which is a marijuana plant. If you squeeze it, hashish oil comes out, and it's a byproduct of marijuana, and it's really high in THC, which is the active component that makes you high. Well, she didn't have a lid on it. She had that little paper towel as the lid. Well, when she stuck it up inside her, when we put her in a big sweet chair, it rocks her hips back, and it started leaking into her, so it was getting a straight shot to her bloodstream. And she was just high for 2 days, just screaming at the top of her lungs because she had a continuous supply of hashish oil. Well, the black stuff on the left, that's dried hashish. And she had a package for individual resale, and then she had that in the white container with a lid on it that was packed up inside her on top of the glass jar. So she had all that inside her. And no wonder she was going crazy for 2 days. So we ended up taking her to court, and I charged her with all kinds of felonies, possession of marijuana for resale, possession of opiates for resale, and then this stuff, and trying to get it inside her jail, and all kinds of stuff. Well, she gets her bond lowered in the court system because she couldn't make bond, and immediately skips back to California, where, we're not going to go get her. The warrants are still in NCIC, that she has, felony warrants out of Tennessee for drug dealing, but are we really going to drive all the way to California with at least 2 officers, including a female officer, and then drive her all the way back for these charges? No. We'll only take her if she's east of the Mississippi. Well, unfortunately for her, these charges are still in NCIC. And she's from a mid-sized town, and she's well known by the local law enforcement, and they all hate her. So every time she shows her butt, they go arrest her for the outstanding warrants that I still have an NCIC on 8 years later now. And the way it works, if she has warrants, the local agency will arrest her. They take her back to their jail. They notify us through the NCIC computer, hey, we got your girl. We have 10 business days to come get her. Well, we always say, we're not going to come get her. And they say, that's okay, we'll hold her for those 10 days anyway. She's done over 380 days in the jail, 10 days at a time, just because she's a rare end. And she's actually spent more time in jail, 10 days at a time, than if she came back and actually went to jail for our charges. Right? Any questions on that?
So those people in states like Colorado, California,
Yep.
what are states that have legal, medical,
There's 38 states in the United States that have license for medical marijuana. There are 8 states that have made marijuana illegal, but it's against federal law. Tennessee